Ladies and gentlemen, let's dive into something raw, something real, something that affects every relationship at some point. You know what I'm talking about when he pulls away. Now, I want you to really hear me on this, because this isn't just about men pulling away. It's about human psychology. It's about fear, and it's about the silent dance of love and vulnerability. The pullback phenomenon. You see, men are wired differently. When emotional intensity rises, when a relationship hits a certain threshold, it triggers something in his brain. Call it self-preservation, call it instinct, but it's real. It's like a survival mechanism that whispers, step back. Reassess. Is this safe now, ladies? This doesn't mean he doesn't care. It doesn't mean he's done. It means his system is overloaded and he needs space to recalibrate. Emotional recalibration. Now, here's the kicker when he steps back. It's not because he doesn't feel anything. It's because he feels everything. Men process emotions differently. We compartmentalize. That distance isn't about you. It's about him trying to make sense of the whirlwind inside. And here's the thing. If you chase him, if you try to control that space, you interrupt the recalibration process. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is let him breathe. The fear of loss vs. the desire for connection. Now, here's where it gets interesting. In that space, in that quiet, something happens. His mind starts talking. What if I lose her? What if I never feel this connection again? You see, men often realize the value of something in its absence. And the desire for connection, real connection, it's like gravity. It pulls him back. And this is crucial, he doesn't return because he's scared of being alone. He returns because he's realized he chooses you. Authenticity vs. attachment. But listen closely, there's a massive difference between returning out of authentic love and returning out of attachment or guilt. Love says, I see you. I choose you. I'm ready to build something real. Attachment says, I'm scared of losing you, so I'm here out of fear. And let me tell you, relationships built on fear don't last. You deserve someone who chooses you in clarity, not someone who clings to you in confusion. The power of feminine energy. And ladies, let me speak directly to you for a second. Your energy is magnetic, it's powerful. But here's the truth, you can't force someone to stay. What you can do is create an environment where he wants to return. Feminine energy isn't about begging or pleading, it's about creating safety, warmth, and authenticity. When a man feels that, he doesn't just return, he stays. Growth through separation. Now here's where we tie it all together. That space, that uncomfortable space when he pulls away, it's not a curse. It's an opportunity. It's a chance for him to grow. For you to grow. And for the relationship to evolve. But you've got to trust the process. Don't let fear make decisions for you. Don't let insecurity drive you to chase. Stand in your power. Because listen, if he's meant to return, he will. And when he does, it won't be because you begged, it'll be because he realized your value, your worth, and the irreplaceable connection you bring to his life. So I want to leave you with this trust, the pullback, honor the space, and stand strong in your worth. If he returns, let it be because he's ready, not because he's scared. And if he doesn't, then you'll know that space created the clarity you needed to. Remember, love isn't about holding on tightly. It's about knowing when to hold space and when to let go. And sometimes the letting go is what brings them back. Now go out there and live with power, passion, and purpose. You see, relationships are this beautiful, complex dance between two individuals trying to navigate their emotions, fears, and desires. But here's the thing, men and women are wired differently. And when a man pulls away, it's not always because he doesn't care, it's often because he cares so much that his system gets overwhelmed. Now, we have to understand this from both a psychological and emotional perspective. At the core of every man is a need for autonomy, a sense of independence. It's not that he doesn't want love. It's not that he doesn't crave connection. But when things start to feel too intense, when the emotional stakes rise, when vulnerability creeps in, it triggers something deep inside his psyche. It's almost primal, a survival mechanism. His subconscious starts asking questions like, am I enough for this? Can I handle this responsibility? What if I fail her? What if I disappoint her, and instead of verbalizing these fears, instead of working through them in the moment, many men instinctively pull away. Now, here's what most people misunderstand. This pulling away isn't premeditated. It's not a conscious, calculated decision. It's more like a reflex, a knee-jerk reaction to an internal pressure he might not even fully understand himself. Think of it like a rubber band being stretched too far. At some point, it needs to snap back to its original position to avoid breaking altogether. That snapback moment is when he distances himself emotionally, mentally, or even physically. But what's happening during this retreat, what's going on in his mind? You see, space, whether it's physical or emotional, gives a man the time and clarity to process his feelings without the noise, without the pressure of immediate interaction. And it's not just about the relationship, it's about his identity within that relationship. Questions like, am I showing up the way I want to? Can I give her what she deserves? Am I losing myself in this connection? Start to surface. And let me be clear, this isn't a flaw in him. It's not a weakness. It's actually part of how he recalibrates himself emotionally. When a man pulls away, it's often his way of finding stability within himself so that he can re-enter the relationship from a place of strength, not confusion. Now, the biggest mistake many women make during this phase is chasing him, trying to close the gap before he's ready. And I get it. When someone you care about starts to withdraw, every instinct inside of you screams, fix it, close the distance, don't let him slip away. But here's the harsh truth, chasing him while he's in this state often drives him further away. Why? Because it interrupts his recalibration process. It feels suffocating. It feels like his space, his moment to breathe and regroup is being taken away. Instead, what's powerful, what's transformational is giving him the space he needs without resentment, without bitterness, and without fear. This doesn't mean you have to sit there in silence, waiting and hoping he comes back. No, it means you continue living your life, nurturing your passions and standing in your own emotional independence. Because here's the secret, the space isn't just for him, it's for you too. It's a moment for you to reassess, to realign, and to ask yourself some powerful questions as well. Am I happy in this relationship? Am I showing up authentically? Am I honoring my own boundaries? Now listen closely. If he's a man of integrity, if he genuinely cares about you, that space won't diminish the connection. In fact, it will amplify it. Why? Because clarity happens in the quiet moments. Love, real love, doesn't vanish in the absence of constant proximity. In fact, it often becomes more apparent. And here's the truth, when a man pulls away and is given the space to process, he often returns with a deeper sense of commitment and clarity. And this is crucial, it only works if the space is respected by both sides. If it becomes a game of manipulation or emotional punishment, the purpose of the space is lost. So the next time he pulls away, don't see it as rejection. Don't see it as a sign that he's done. See it as what it often is, a moment for him to recalibrate, to regain his footing, and to come back to the relationship with a renewed sense of purpose. Because a man who pulls away and returns on his own terms with clarity and intention is a man who isn't just coming back to you, he's coming back for you. And that makes all the difference. When a man pulls away, it's often because he needs space to process his emotions, space that allows him to recalibrate mentally and emotionally. This is crucial to understand because emotional recalibration is not just a simple moment of quiet reflection, it's a deeper, more complex internal process. It's about finding balance. Think of it as stepping back to reassess the landscape of his feelings, his values, and his place in the relationship. For men, processing emotions can feel like navigating a storm inside their minds, and to weather that storm, they need calm both internally and externally. Often, the intensity of emotional connection in a relationship can feel overwhelming, especially when a man feels his emotional limits being pushed. At first, it may be subtle. He might become quieter or distant, not because he doesn't care, but because his mind is flooded with thoughts he's trying to sort through. The emotional intensity, especially in a relationship that's getting more serious or vulnerable, can feel like a pressure cooker. He may need that space to release the tension, to think, to analyze what's happening without the overwhelming noise of constant interaction or emotional demand. The more he retreats, the more he's trying to get clarity and avoid making impulsive, rash decisions driven by those emotions. In these moments, a man might feel conflicted. His desire for connection, love, and intimacy is battling with his natural urge for independence and clarity. If he's too close to the relationship emotionally, mentally, or even physically, he feels like he's losing his grounding. And when that happens, the emotional recalibration begins. He needs to be able to reflect on what the relationship means to him, what it demands from him, and whether he can live up to those demands without losing himself. This is when he needs emotional space. Not because he wants to pull away permanently, but because he needs to process everything in his mind. During this time, many men find themselves overwhelmed by the fear of inadequacy. They may ask themselves, am I doing enough for her? Am I the man she needs me to be? These are not questions born from lack of love or commitment, but from a desire to ensure they're not failing their partner. The emotional weight of this responsibility can feel suffocating when there's no space to reflect, to recalibrate, and to come to terms with those fears. As these thoughts continue to swirl, a man pulls back because in his mind, pulling away momentarily is a way to regain his composure. It's a form of self-care, though it may not always look like it on the outside. The critical element here is that men don't process emotions in the same way women often do. While women may prefer to express their feelings, seek closeness, and talk things out, men are generally more inclined to process internally before sharing. For him, the emotional recalibration requires him to step out of the emotional intensity of the moment and reflect in silence. This doesn't mean he's closing off from you, it means he's attempting to close off from the emotional chaos inside his mind. This is also why the emotional distance can be so painful for women, especially if they interpret it as disinterest or withdrawal from the relationship. But it's essential to understand that his withdrawal is a signal, not an end. It's not rejection, it's an attempt to regain clarity. Space allows him to sort through his emotions without being clouded by immediate reactions or external pressures. He's looking for a way to come back to the relationship with a deeper sense of understanding, a clearer vision, and an emotionally grounded commitment. For women, giving this space can be difficult. It can feel like abandonment or a sign that the relationship is in trouble. But if you can view the pullback through the lens of emotional recalibration, you begin to see it as an opportunity for both individuals to strengthen the relationship, not weaken it. In fact, when both partners respect the need for space, they allow each other to process, reflect, and return to the relationship with greater emotional depth and clarity. Emotional recalibration isn't just about the man sorting through his own thoughts, it's about the relationship itself having the chance to breathe. And when he comes back, after having had the time to process, it's not only him that's been recalibrated. Both partners are likely to come back stronger, more centered, and with a deeper understanding of what they need from each other. The space becomes a tool for growth, not a wedge that drives a permanent divide. The internal conflict that arises when a man pulls away is not just about emotional distance, it's a battle between two deep opposing forces within him. On one hand, there's the fear of loss, the fear of missing out on something or someone that has become important to him. On the other hand, there's the desire for connection, intimacy, and closeness that every human craves, especially in a romantic relationship. This internal tug of war plays out in a way that might seem confusing to those around him, but the truth is, this conflict is a natural part of his emotional process. At its core, the fear of loss is often more profound than it appears. It's not just about losing a partner, it's about losing a sense of self, a sense of identity, or even the life he's built with this person. When a man is in a relationship that feels deeply meaningful, there's a part of him that is aware of how much he stands to lose if things go wrong. This fear becomes amplified when things begin to feel intense, unpredictable, or uncertain. He starts asking himself questions like, what if I fail her? What if I can't live up to her expectations? What if I end up hurting her or myself? These aren't questions born out of distrust, but from a place of vulnerability. He fears that if he gets too close, if he opens himself up too much, he might lose control or worse, lose the connection altogether. And this fear is what drives him to pull away. On the other side of the coin, however, there is the powerful desire for connection. Human beings are wired to bond, to seek out relationships that provide love, support, and intimacy. A man may recognize that pulling away isn't the healthiest choice, but the internal pull toward being close to someone, toward building a deeper relationship, is just as strong, if not stronger. He might realize that, despite his fears, he doesn't want to lose the relationship, the emotional support, or the sense of partnership he has with you. The desire for connection isn't just about wanting someone in his life, it's about wanting a shared life, where both partners support, care for, and grow together. This desire to be close is often at odds with the fear of losing that closeness, which can make him feel paralyzed, unsure of what to do or how to act. What happens next is that he's caught in a kind of emotional limbo. His instinct to retreat, to create distance, comes from a deep desire to protect himself. But at the same time, the connection he shares with you pulls him back, compelling him to return to that place of intimacy, love, and partnership. He might step away to protect himself, but his mind and heart are still tethered to the bond he has with you, constantly weighing the pros and cons of what it would mean to remain distant versus what it would mean to return and fully embrace the relationship. The fear of loss, when experienced intensely, can sometimes cloud his judgment. The longer he stays in this emotional limbo, the more he may question whether the relationship is worth the risk, whether it's something that can withstand his internal fears. But the deeper the bond, the stronger the pull to return. It's as though a man's mind can't fully let go of the connection. Even if he tries to distance himself physically or emotionally, his thoughts, his subconscious, keep bringing him back to the relationship. And what's fascinating is that this isn't just a sign of attachment, it's a sign of true emotional engagement. A man who doesn't care, a man who doesn't feel deeply, wouldn't be plagued by such conflicting thoughts. The fact that he pulls away, but his mind keeps circling back to the relationship, is actually an indication of how much he values it. In the end, the man will return, not just because he fears loss, but because he realizes that the connection, the love, the partnership is worth the vulnerability it requires. The desire for closeness, for a meaningful and lasting bond, outweighs the fear of losing it. When he returns, it's often with a renewed sense of commitment, clarity, and understanding. He's had time to process his fears, to recalibrate his thoughts, and now he can approach the relationship not out of fear, but out of a deeper, more genuine desire to continue building it. The pullback, in essence, is a part of the process that brings him back stronger, more sure of the value of the relationship, and more committed to making it work. In the realm of relationships, there's a fundamental difference between authenticity and attachment, especially when it comes to why someone returns after pulling away. The truth is, a man's return isn't always driven by love alone. Sometimes it's driven by attachment, the fear of loss, or the desire to fill an emotional void. But it's crucial to understand the distinction between these two forces because the quality and longevity of a relationship depend on which one is driving the return. Authenticity in a relationship means being true to yourself and your partner. It's about coming back because you genuinely care, because you've had time to process your feelings, and because you see the value in continuing to build something meaningful together. When a man returns out of authenticity, it's because he has taken the time to understand his emotions, his commitment, and his vision for the future. He's not returning because he feels obligated or out of fear of being alone. He's returning because he truly believes in the connection he shares with his partner, and he sees that connection as an integral part of his life moving forward. Authenticity drives him to invest in a relationship with clarity and intention. However, attachment can cloud a man's decision-making process. Attachment comes from a place of dependency rather than choice. It's driven by the fear of being without the partner, the fear of losing the emotional comfort or security that the relationship provides. Attachment doesn't come from a place of emotional independence, it comes from a place of need. A man who returns out of attachment may feel a sense of relief or security in the relationship, but he may not have fully processed his emotions or understood what the relationship truly means to him. He might be returning out of fear of being alone, fear of change, or even fear of being misunderstood. Attachment can make him believe that the relationship is essential for his happiness or well-being without allowing him the time or space to fully assess whether it is truly what he wants or needs in the long run. The problem with attachment is that it can create an unhealthy dynamic in the relationship. If someone returns out of fear or dependency, the relationship risks becoming imbalanced. One person may feel they are giving more than they're receiving, or that the other is only there because they can't be without them. This creates an atmosphere of emotional imbalance where both partners may feel like they are not being fully seen or understood. It can lead to resentment, unspoken expectations, and ultimately a lack of true connection. Attachment-based returns often don't have the foundation of emotional growth or mutual understanding that authentic returns have. Authenticity, on the other hand, is rooted in personal growth and emotional maturity. When a man returns out of authenticity, he's coming back because he has come to terms with his feelings, his fears, and his needs. He is no longer running from the discomfort that a relationship can bring. Instead, he is choosing to face that discomfort and engage in the relationship fully. Authenticity means he has recognized the value of his partner as an individual, as someone who brings something irreplaceable to his life. It's a return based on clear understanding and mutual respect, not fear or dependency. It's also important to note that authenticity allows space for growth. When someone returns authentically, they bring a sense of self-awareness and a willingness to evolve. There's no pretension, no games, no pretending to be something they are not. It's a return that is built on truth about who they are, about their partner, and about the relationship itself. This allows for deeper conversations, stronger emotional intimacy, and the possibility for the relationship to develop into something even stronger and more meaningful than before. On the flip side, a return driven by attachment tends to stifle growth. It keeps both partners in a state of dependency where they are more focused on holding on to the connection out of fear than on building something that is rooted in shared values and long-term fulfillment. Attachment keeps both people in a state of emotional limbo, where they are constantly trying to fulfill a need or desire, rather than nurturing a healthy and growing connection. In the end, it's the return driven by authenticity that has the power to create a lasting and meaningful relationship. It's the return where both people are clear on their intentions, where emotional depth is nurtured, and where personal growth is encouraged. Authenticity allows love to flourish in a way that attachment can never replicate. The key is to ensure that the return is about more than just coming back to avoid discomfort. It's about coming back with a renewed sense of purpose, respect, and understanding. When a man pulls away and then returns, it's essential to understand that this return isn't always seamless. It's not always a simple, straightforward re-engagement. Often, it involves a process of reestablishing trust and emotional connection. For both partners, the return after a period of withdrawal can be a transformative moment, a time when both people must navigate the complexities of emotions, expectations, and communication. Trust, in particular, plays a significant role in this process. The first thing to understand is that trust isn't just about loyalty or faithfulness. It's deeper than that. Trust, especially after a pullback, involves the emotional assurance that both individuals are willing to show up for each other despite the difficulties. It's about knowing that your partner is there not just in the easy moments, but when things get complicated, when feelings are hurt, and when emotional space is needed. When a man pulls away, the question often arises, will my partner trust that I will come back? This fear, this concern about the loss of trust can cause anxiety for both partners. The partner who stays behind, meanwhile, may feel abandoned, confused, or even betrayed. There's often an unspoken question that lingers during the time apart: can I trust that he'll come back? The fear of emotional vulnerability can create doubts, even if the man hasn't done anything wrong. This uncertainty can be particularly intense for the partner who is left waiting for the man to return. They may fear that the emotional distance means that the relationship is over, that the bond isn't strong enough to weather this moment. Trust is put to the test when one person steps away, and both people have to grapple with whether they can count on the return being real, sincere, and lasting. But here's the thing: rebuilding trust after emotional space is not about expecting everything to pick up where it left off. It's about being willing to be vulnerable again, to open up and have the difficult conversations about what caused the pullback, what the space meant, and what both individuals need moving forward. It's about showing up not with expectations of perfection, but with a willingness to be transparent, to be honest, and to work through the complexities together. When a man returns after pulling away, he's not just coming back to pick up where things left off, he's coming back with a deeper understanding of what he needs and what the relationship requires from him. This process of reestablishing trust can be deeply healing for both partners, provided there's an openness to address the emotions that came up during the period of separation. The man might need to express what was going on in his mind during a pullback: the fear, the overwhelm, the need for space, and the partner might need to share their own fears and uncertainties. These conversations, although difficult, are vital for rebuilding a foundation of trust. But it's not just about talking. Trust is also built through action. A man's return must be backed by consistent behavior that shows he's committed to the relationship, that he's willing to put in the effort to rebuild what was momentarily strained. Trust is established when both individuals act in alignment with their words, showing through their actions that they are in this together, that they are committed to nurturing the relationship even after periods of difficulty. It's not about sweeping things under the rug or pretending that the space never existed. It's about acknowledging what happened, why it happened, and how both people are going to move forward with mutual respect and a shared vision. Rebuilding trust also means learning to manage expectations. Often, when one person returns after pulling away, the other partner might feel the urge to rush things, to immediately reclaim the connection that was temporarily lost. But true trust takes time. It's about being patient with each other and allowing the relationship to evolve. Trust isn't just about waiting for the other person to return. It's about showing that you can weather the ups and downs together, that you can stay grounded in your commitment to one another. For a man, returning after pulling away can be an act of emotional courage. He's facing the reality of vulnerability, of showing up with full transparency, and of demonstrating his willingness to invest in the relationship. For both partners, the return is a reminder that trust isn't built overnight. It's forged through open communication, consistent action, and a mutual understanding that the relationship requires effort and care from both sides. Trust, once rebuilt, can be even stronger than before because it has been tested and proven to withstand the challenges of emotional distance and time apart. Ultimately, trust after a pullback is about more than just the man coming back. It's about both partners recognizing that the relationship is worth the emotional work, worth the vulnerability, and worth the time it takes to heal, grow, and deepen the connection. The return then becomes an opportunity to rebuild not only trust, but also the emotional foundation that will support the relationship for the long term. When a man pulls away and then returns, it is crucial to recognize that his return is not a sign of weakness, nor is it a simple resolution of the issues that caused the emotional distance in the first place. Instead, it can often mark a moment of growth and self-awareness. In fact, his return after a period of withdrawal often indicates that he has gone through a process of self-reflection, healing, and a clearer understanding of his needs. This process allows him to return with a deeper sense of emotional maturity and a stronger sense of self, which ultimately benefits the relationship. One of the key elements in this growth is the fact that the time apart provides both individuals with the space they need to reflect, process, and gain clarity. During the time of emotional distance, a man has the opportunity to evaluate his own thoughts, emotions, and behaviors without the immediate pressure or influence of his partner. This time allows him to identify what he truly wants from the relationship, what his fears and vulnerabilities are, and what changes, if any, he needs to make to be a better partner. For many men, this kind of emotional introspection can lead to a heightened sense of awareness about their own feelings and the dynamics of the relationship. When he returns after this period of emotional recalibration, it's not just about re-engaging with the relationship, it's about coming back as a more fully realized version of himself. His return signals that he has processed his thoughts, worked through his emotional hurdles, and now has a greater understanding of what both he and his partner need in the relationship. It is an opportunity for both individuals to move beyond the surface level issues that may have caused the emotional distance and to dig deeper into what really matters: trust, communication, emotional vulnerability, and mutual respect. However, it's important to note that this process of growth and self-awareness isn't a quick fix. It often takes time for a man to fully process the emotional complexities of a relationship and figure out how to navigate the difficulties that arise. While the space away may offer the clarity needed to make decisions, it's not always an immediate solution. His return is a sign that he's ready to put in the emotional effort and engage with the relationship on a deeper level, but that doesn't mean everything is instantly resolved. In fact, there may still be work to do as both partners adjust to the changes that have taken place during the time apart. From the perspective of the partner who has been left behind, the return can be a time of rebuilding as well. It's an opportunity to reestablish emotional intimacy, reconnect, and begin working together on the issues that caused the emotional distance. There may still be lingering doubts or fears, but the key is to see the return as a moment of shared growth, not just a return to the status quo. Both partners need to approach this period with open communication, patience, and a willingness to be vulnerable with each other. The act of returning after pulling away also represents a significant shift in mindset. A man who returns after a period of emotional distance often comes back with a renewed sense of commitment. This time apart has allowed him to reflect on what he values in the relationship, and he is now more focused on creating a lasting and fulfilling connection. He has had the space to evaluate his own emotional needs and how they align with his partner's needs. This introspection can lead to a more balanced, healthier dynamic where both partners are actively engaged in the relationship rather than relying on automatic, habitual patterns of behavior. Moreover, the time apart and the return process offer both partners a chance to reset expectations. When a man pulls away, it can sometimes be a sign that certain needs, expectations, or boundaries weren't being met in the relationship. His return gives both individuals the opportunity to communicate openly about what they need from each other moving forward. It's a time to recalibrate the relationship, establish new boundaries if necessary, and ensure that both people are on the same page about what they want from the connection. This can be a transformative moment for the relationship, allowing both partners to establish a new, stronger foundation built on mutual understanding and respect. In the end, when a man pulls away but ultimately returns, it's not a sign that the relationship is doomed or that it's weak. It's often an indication that both individuals are growing and evolving, learning to navigate their emotional landscapes with more clarity and intention. The return after pulling away is an opportunity for both people to come back to the relationship with a stronger sense of self, greater emotional maturity, and a deeper appreciation for what they bring to the connection. It's not just about reconnecting, it's about evolving together, supporting each other in growth, and building something even stronger than before. The journey of a man pulling away and then returning is not a straightforward or simple one. It is a complex, deeply emotional process that encompasses fear, vulnerability, self-reflection, and ultimately growth. When he pulls away, it is often an internal struggle between the desire for connection and the fear of loss. It is during this time of distance that he confronts his emotions, processes his thoughts, and reflects on what he truly wants from the relationship. But it's crucial to recognize that his return is not just about coming back to the relationship, it is about returning as a more emotionally aware, self-reflective, and committed partner. The return isn't a magic fix for everything that may have caused the emotional space, but it is an opportunity for both partners to rebuild trust, realign their expectations, and establish a stronger foundation moving forward. It requires open communication, vulnerability, and a willingness to grow together. When both individuals engage with honesty and patience, the relationship can emerge stronger, more resilient, and more meaningful than before. This process is not without its challenges, but it is a necessary part of any meaningful relationship. The pullback and return signify a deeper engagement with the emotional realities of love, intimacy, and partnership. It's a reminder that love isn't always about perfection or smooth sailing sometimes. It's about navigating the emotional turbulence and coming back with a clearer understanding of what both individuals need and want. And in the end, when both people are committed to working through the challenges together, the return is not just a reunion, it's the beginning of something even stronger.